Hey guys, I'm Danielle K. White, owner of DKW Styling Salon, creator of Natural Beauty Row Hair Extensions and ISLA hand-tied hair. Okay, you guys, I have been behind the chair for over 20 years. I am so passionate about hair and I'm so passionate about getting natural, blendy looking extensions. I always say I was a colorist first, and then because of my own hair struggles with having very baby fine hair, this is what led me to create the system of Natural Beauty Row Hair Extensions. It's really, on this video, I want to talk to you specifically about my top favorite blends. We actually have over 19 different blends with ISLA hand-tied hair, and we have artists and even clients wondering, like, what should I ask for? What colors are in your hair? So I'm going to show you some of my favorite bronde mixes, some of my favorite blonde blends, and then some of my favorite brunette blends. With Natural Beauty Rows, we actually stack multiple pieces of ISLA hand-tied hair on each row. So I'm actually I pulled some of my favorite colors that often are some of my favorite colors in my own hair, and I'm gonna show you how I stack them and how I would actually even place them on a client. Obviously, I'm here at my salon in Laguna Beach, California. I don't have a client, so I'm gonna be showing you on my hair rack, but this is one of my favorite bronde patterns. And I think one of the biggest things with bronze is we want to have this little bit of contrast and dimension, but we also want it to be very, very blendy. So when I share some of my top blends, people are always surprised with the contrast that I put in my blends, but how soft and seamless they look. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first color that I'm gonna layer, again, this is for a bronze client. This is our beautiful 9-7. So when I named my colors, I tried to make it as simple as possible for you guys. It's a level 9 and it's a level 7. So it is called a 9-7. So we have a 9-7 here, and I'm actually gonna place this one first on my client. Then one of my favorite blends, which if you have worked with hair extensions before, sometimes when you look at a singular piece, the color itself looks scary, but it looks beautiful mixed in. So one of the common themes that we'll hear from clients is they don't want any warmth, they don't want any warmth, but then their hair fades out warm, and it's a dead giveaway that it's extensions because you've put these cooler extensions in their hair, and then you've toned them, but then when the toner fades off, you've got warm hair here and cool extensions here. So I always say you are the professional and you need to communicate to your clients what's gonna give them the best result when they leave your salon, and also when they come back, what's still gonna look natural and blend. So this one is a 5-9. And the 5 is a little bit warmer. I would definitely say this is one of our warmer blends, but oftentimes bronze fade out a little bit warm, and you can always tone this down to match their hair and anticipate the fade. That's one of the things I always teach my artists is anticipate the fade. So if your client wants a cooler tone but they fade out warm, start with a warmer piece and tone it cooler. So next I'm gonna place this one on there. And I love, again, mixing warm and cool patterns. Okay guys, so my next one, this is actually one of my favorite brunettes. It's such a good mid color. It's a 5WBL. This one is always in my hair, whether I go darker or lighter. This is like a staple. It's the 5WBL. Most of the ISLA hair is rooted too, so even this one is a tiny bit rooted, which makes it nice and makes it easier behind the chair. My goal in creating ISLA was to make it, time is money behind the chair, so I wanted to make it easier for the artist and have a phenomenal blend for the client. Okay, so the last color that I'm gonna place on here, this one is an 8-6. So I always say this is the cooler sister to the 9-7. It's an 8-6 and it's a little bit more blendy. I really prefer using that top piece or your top layer as something that's not quite so piano keyed, as more of like a veil. So I'm gonna put this one over the top. It's really gonna bring all my colors together. So now we have this beautiful bronze with so much dimension in here, but it's very, very blendy. So these are some of my top colors that I like to use for that bronze client who just wants to have subtle dimension, but is definitely the more of the mid tones. So first, let's get started. I'm going to talk about one of my favorite patterns with a brunette. So oftentimes what I'll hear from a brunette is they don't necessarily want highlights, but they don't want a flat color. They want their hair to reflect light and have soft dimension. So for me, instead of just sticking in, a solid level 3 or a solid level 4, I'll pick some colors that have some variation in tone and in warmth. So the first one that I'm going to choose is my 3WB. Now this is the darkest brunette that we carry in ISLA, and it does reflect just a tiny bit of warmth, which I like. And then the next one that I'm going to pair with it, again, you guys, this is one of my staple mid brunettes. It's the 5WB. This is one that's great in your darker brunettes or even your bronze. So then I'm going to layer my 5WB. And the last one that I'm gonna layer on here is my 3WB. This is slightly different than the 3N. To me, it looks a little bit darker and has a little bit more warmth. So it does have variation. It's just slightly different than that 3N. Again, it's just a tiny bit darker and has a tiny bit more warmth. So again, this is just gonna reflect light. You can see how pretty that is. That's great for your brunette client that doesn't want highlights but wants dimension. Okay, so let's get started. I want to talk to you guys about my favorite blonde pattern, because blondes to me are the most dimensional. And I can't tell you how many times I see a blonde who has like 4 different tones of blonde and they only have this as their extensions. So again, if your color blend is not on point, it doesn't matter what technique you're using or what hair you're using, it's gonna be a dead giveaway that is extensions. So in this video, I wanna share some of my favorite blonde colors in ISLA hand-tied hair and even how I would layer them. I always tell the artist that you are the professional. So sometimes you'll bring something like this out to a blonde. This is our 8N in ISLA, and they immediately are like, oh my gosh, that's like the darkest brown I've ever seen. But they can't necessarily see the back of their hair and exactly what's going on. And the funny thing is they actually have quite a bit of this hair, maybe this color of hair in the nape. So it's important to like assess your client's entire hair and find out what tones are in there when you're choosing wefts. So again, one of the things that helps me is I would never bring this up to a blonde and be like, do you like this color? Like immediately they're gonna tell you no. They're gonna say it's way too dark. So one of the things I like to do is I put multiple pieces together, I brush them together, and then I hold them up to my client's hair and I say, look how beautiful that blend is. I don't ask them for permission. I'm looking for a beautiful blend. So I'm gonna talk to you some of my favorite colors and some tricks I do with blondes. So again, this is that 8N. I really love this. Have you ever had a blonde that fades out kind of yellowy? It's because they're lacking dimension or a little bit of contrast. So if you put a darker piece in there, it's actually going to fade out. Not so clients are like, oh, I feel yellowy, I feel brassy. By adding this dark piece, they're going to fade out a little bit more natural. And I always say whenever you're selecting your wefts, always, always, always anticipate that fade. Okay, so the next color that we're going to use is, this is the 10-8 CBL. This is my top seller in ISLA hair. It's a very soft piano key with a very subtle root here. This one is perfect for your lighter blondes, and it does have just a little bit of a low light in there. So next I'm going to place this one on there. And then I know that my clients, they want that level 10, they want that platinum piece in there, they want the, the money piece is a 10, but that doesn't mean that all of their hair is a level 10. But I am gonna give them what they want. I am gonna sneak in one of these level 10s. So this is our 10 in ISLA. And then last but not least, I love, for your blonde clients, it's so important. Sometimes if they have shorter layers, they are kind of trying to match the hair off the money piece. And again, you're the professional, so you should never let your client necessarily dictate how it's placed, and show them how beautiful the blend is. So I love doing a little bit darker blonde. This is our 9WBL in ISLA, and I call this my veil or my overlay color. And what it does is when you're putting this really pretty platinum piece there, that 10N, this just kind of softens everything. And then when they curl their hair and they style it, they still have windows of this really pretty bright blonde, but this just kind of makes it all come together. So you can see once I've kind of put this on the rack, and I even will bring it to clients and show them the dimension, then they're less scared to add, that 8N or a little bit of a low light, and I know that this is still gonna give them that bright blonde that they're looking for. If you have a client that is, again, blonde from scalp to ends, you might not wanna use that 8, but most blondes in my experience do have a little bit of dimension. So there you go, you guys. Those are my top 3 blends, again, with my brunettes, my blondes, and my bronze for ISLA hair and natural beauty row hair extensions.